They didn't see it coming. 3 seconds, and 300 men were gone. Not beaten, not outrun, just erased. And the terrifying part? The weapon never even moved. Picture this. Greece, 480 BC, a narrow mountain pass called Thermopylae. A force of 300 Spartan warriors holds the line against 300,000 Persian soldiers. For 3 days they hold, shields locked, spears raised, screaming in the face of death. History remembers them as legends. Warriors so brutal, so disciplined, that even their enemies admired them. The Persians didn't just want to beat them, they wanted to understand them. How could 300 men stop an army that size, even for a single hour? But here's the question no one asks. What if it wasn't 300 Spartans facing a Persian army? What if Sparta, the whole city-state, had access to modern military weapons? Not one weapon, all of it. Fighter jets, drones, artillery, cruise missiles. Would Sparta actually survive? Or would their legendary discipline mean nothing at all? First, you have to understand who the Spartans really were. They weren't just soldiers, they were engineered. From birth, Spartan boys were inspected by elders. Too weak? Abandoned on a hillside to die. Strong enough? Then the real suffering began. At age 7, boys were taken from their families, forced into military training called the agoge. They slept on thin reed mats. In winter, no extra clothing. They were deliberately underfed to teach them to steal, to survive, to endure. By age 18, a Spartan warrior was something different. He had been beaten, starved, humiliated, and pushed until he broke, then rebuilt. His entire identity was battle. Death in combat wasn't feared. It was the goal. To die well, that was the highest honor. Their military formation, the phalanx, was nearly unbreakable in its time. A wall of shields, 8 men deep, overlapping, moving as one organism. Every man covered the man beside him. You couldn't break one Spartan. You had to break all of them at once. At their height, Sparta dominated ancient Greece for centuries. They crushed Athens. They humbled Persia. Other city-states didn't just fear Sparta, they modeled themselves after it. A Spartan warrior was the apex predator of the ancient world, but every predator has a weakness. The phalanx only worked on flat, open ground. Break the terrain, break the formation. And in the modern world, the terrain is irrelevant, because the enemy never even has to get close. Now, meet the weapon. The BGM-71 Tau missile system. Tau stands for tube-launched, optically tracked, wire-guided. It's been in use since 1970. It's been upgraded so many times, it's almost unrecognizable from its original design. Here are the numbers. Range, 3,750 meters. That's nearly 2.5 miles. Speed, 278 meters per second. Warhead, capable of penetrating 630 millimeters of steel armor. The missile locks on. The operator guides it. The target doesn't survive. Now compare that to what a Spartan carried. A dory, a spear about 7 to 9 feet long. A xiphos, a short iron sword. A hoplon, a bronze shield about 3 feet wide. Maximum effective range, about 10 feet with the spear. Maybe 30 feet at a desperate throw. The TOW missile fires from 12,000 feet away. A Spartan warrior would have to somehow cross 3,750 meters of open ground while the missile is already in the air to even get within striking distance. That's not a battle. That's not even close to a battle. That's a math problem, and the math doesn't work. But wait, let's make this fair. Let's give Sparta a formation. Full phalanx, 8,000 men. The full military might of Sparta at its peak. Shields up, spears forward, moving in perfect discipline toward their enemy. One Tau battery carries 4 missiles ready to fire. Reload takes 30 seconds. At 278 meters per second, the first missile hits in under 14 seconds. 4 missiles, 30 seconds, then 4 more. But here's the truly shocking part. A single modern Paladin howitzer, 1 artillery unit, fires shells up to 30 kilometers away. Each shell contains 15 pounds of high explosive. The blast radius kills everything within 50 meters. 1 howitzer. 1 shell every 3 minutes. The entire Spartan army, 8,000 men, occupies roughly 400 meters of frontage. A single experienced crew could saturate that entire formation before a single Spartan knew the attack had started. That's not a weakness in Spartan tactics. That's an extinction-level gap in technology. But let's do this properly. Let's play it out. It's dawn. The valley is quiet. Morning mist hangs low over the ground. 8,000 Spartans stand in formation, shields gleaming, spears aimed forward. Their breathing is controlled, slow. They've trained for this their entire lives. Their commander, a man who survived the agoge at age 7, stands at the front. He has fought in 12 battles. He has never lost. He surveys the valley ahead. It's open, flat, perfect phalanx ground. And then something strange. A sound, low at first. A distant rumble, not thunder, something mechanical, something none of them have ever heard before. One of the younger warriors breaks formation slightly, just his eyes. He looks to the sky. A shape, small, moving fast, and then a streak of smoke. The missile hits the center of the formation. The explosion doesn't kill one man. It doesn't kill 10, 50 Spartan warriors. Men who survived years of brutal training are gone in a single second. The formation doesn't break immediately because Spartans are trained not to break. The men at the edges step inward, fill the gap, lock shields again. This is what makes them extraordinary. Any other army in history would have scattered. But these men, they close ranks over the bodies of their brothers. They keep moving forward. The second missile fires, then the third, then the fourth. The formation is bleeding now, not physically, but structurally. There are holes, and holes in a phalanx are fatal, even by ancient standards. The men on the flanks begin to see the scale of what's happening. This isn't an ambush. This isn't a volley of arrows. Something is reaching across an impossible distance and picking them apart. The commander calls out, holds the line. His voice is steady. He has been trained to be steady. He has been trained to die steady. But then the twist. The missiles stop. For 30 seconds, silence. Just the sound of men breathing. Wounded warriors. The distant mechanical sound still in the air. And then a Spartan on the right flank does something no one expected. He breaks from formation. Not in fear, in fury. He runs toward the sound, screaming, alone, one man, sprinting across open ground, spear aimed at something he cannot see, cannot understand. But he runs anyway, because he is Spartan, and Spartans don't stop. He makes it 200 meters before the next shell lands. The formation watches him fall, and for the first time, shields tremble. That moment, that one man running alone, is the most human moment in this entire battle. He didn't run because he thought he would win. He ran because stopping wasn't something his mind could accept. 20 years of training, 20 years of being told that courage was the only answer to death. He ran because that's all he knew how to do. The other Spartans watch, and something shifts. Not fear, something older than fear. Grief, because these men love each other. That's the part of history that gets left out. The Agoge didn't just create soldiers, it created brothers. Men who had slept beside each other on cold ground since they were 7 years old. Men who had covered each other's bodies with their shields. Men who had carried each other off battlefields. And now they are watching each other disappear. Not from wounds, not from enemy swords. From something invisible, unreachable. Something with no face. You cannot fight what you cannot see. You cannot honor a death when there is no body left. The formation holds for 4 more minutes, which is, by any measure, extraordinary. Against modern artillery, most ancient formations collapse in seconds. The Spartans hold for 4 minutes because they are the Spartans, because discipline is all they have left. And then the last shield falls. The real answer is this: Sparta's power was never about weapons. It was about will, the willingness to stand in a line while the world collapsed around you, to close ranks, to keep moving, to run at something you cannot beat, simply because stopping is unthinkable. The Tau missile is accurate to within centimeters at 2.5 miles. It can destroy a tank. A Spartan's bronze shield could stop an arrow. The gap between those two things is not a military gap, it's a time gap. 2,500 years of human invention compressed into a single valley. And here's the fact that should shock you. The TOW missile system costs $187,000 per missile. The Spartan warrior who ran across that open ground trained for 20 years, suffered for 20 years, and never received a single coin. Modern weapons win, that's not in question. But the man who ran alone across open ground at something he'd never seen before, no machine will ever do that. No drone has that kind of courage. Sparta wouldn't survive, but that one man running, that image, will outlast every missile ever built.